Better Call Saul Season 1 is over, but we're just getting started here on Better Call Saul Live, the post-show recap. Now here are the two guys who are about to have the best week ever. I'm Cesternino. Here's Antonio Mazzaro. Antonio.
Best week ever. I feel like, Rob, are we allowed to say that? Is that copyrighted?
It wasn't when Marco said it.
Polo.
Oh, boy.
Every time you say Marco. Polo.
Is no mo.
No mo Marco. Well, at least it ends in a no.
Yes, so very sad. And boy, we have Better Call Saul Season 1. We're going to break down everything from tonight, where we left off, where do we think it's going on the night. I can't believe these 10 weeks flew by like that, Antonio.
They really did, Rob. It seems like only yesterday we were laughing at a talking toilet.
Yes, and that was a while back, too.
And that was a while back. It seems like only yesterday we were listening to the sounds of legs breaking in the desert.
Yeah, so... yeah, it all started way back when we first found out about Slippin' Jimmy, and really this Season 1 was the season of Slippin' Jimmy.
Yeah, it's almost like they just decided we're gonna give you this full season of real Saul Goodman backstory, real Jimmy McGill backstory, before we really get deep into the world that you know well from the show. We're gonna tell you all about the guy that was the guy. I mean, it's almost like this season, Rob, like it's almost like they just said, you know what, if we only have one season to make, we'll make a self-contained season so that you could see where it goes from here to get you to Breaking Bad, so that you could have all these elements in the mix and you could see the things that lead to Jimmy McGill. But really, I mean, there's not too many open ends leading into Season 2. We're going to start anew when we get to Season 2.
Yeah, it was almost like Season 1. Forget the Saul Goodman origin story. This was the Jimmy McGill origin story.
Right. And then once now we know that we know who Jimmy McGill is, we'll see Jimmy McGill become Saul Goodman.
All right, so we're going to talk about everything. We're going to take your questions as well here live on Monday night, April 6th, and we've got the chat room going on post-show recaps. We'll take your tweets with the hashtag PSRecaps, and then also on our YouTube channel at postshowrecaps.com/YouTube. Antonio, were you surprised that this finale ended up spending so much time back in Chicago?
I was surprised, even though I love different venues, and I think that Bob Odenkirk has those connections to Wisconsin and Illinois in that area, and so he knows a lot about it, and I think that you can't really have Bob Odenkirk being so Bob Odenkirk without those connections. I was very surprised. I felt like we had done so much storytelling in the area of New Mexico, and specifically with HHM and Chuck, to have so little of it in the finale felt a little off-putting to me. Were you surprised we spent that much time away?
Yeah, I really was. And I don't want to say that I didn't enjoy it, but for the end of the first season, I was a little disappointed that, we got way more Marco than Mike in the finale.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, way, way more. I thought for a moment that we were not going to get any Mike in the finale, and I thought, wait a minute now, like this can't happen. Like, we have to have something. I mean, and we didn't get much, to be fair, and we got Mike taking a call about another job, but that was really about it, and talking to Jimmy just a little bit about the money. But yeah, I thought we were going to go Mikeless in the finale, and not that I didn't enjoy Marco and the slipping of Slippin' Jimmy, but yeah, I was like, wait a minute, why are we out of this world so much? Because I think we'd all enjoyed being in it so much. So it was a little off-putting. It was not what I expected out of a finale episode, but like you said, not like I didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed the episode. There were some funny parts. The montages were great. I really liked seeing the Ocean's 11 style kind of rundown of all the cons they were running in that short week. I mean, where is this bar in Cicero, by the way, that these people are just wandering in off the street ready to be conned? I don't know. Stay away from wherever that is, everybody.
Yeah, and nobody ever comes back either.
Right. No one ever comes back. I don't know exactly what's going on in this place, but I guess props to them. He was running the Nigerian Prince scheme in person.
He started it. Yeah.
He started it. Yeah, I mean, good for Jimmy, I guess.
Yeah, he started it. So again, all that stuff was very fun and very well executed, but on a night when it felt like it was going to be a special episode of the show, I don't know. I am feeling a little bit left wanting, something bigger than what we ultimately got.
Yeah, a lot of shows do this, and different shows have different varying levels of success with it, where they have the penultimate episode actually be the episode where lots of things happen. Josh Wigler and I are talking about Justified on post-show recaps right now, and we've got 2 episodes left, so tomorrow night's episode may be the episode where everything goes down. The Wire was famous for this as well. The second-to-last episodes of their seasons often had that. Sopranos has done it. Other series have done it because then you spend the last episode with kind of the fallout. But this was not even really too specifically with the fallout. There was a little bit of that, but it was more about Slippin' Jimmy going back to his roots, kind of getting something out of his system, is I think what Kim put it, and I think that's accurate. And maybe seeing the life he could have lived if he'd have stayed there and continued to do what he was doing.
What do we take away from where Jimmy has this offer to go and work at the other law firm and be a partner there, and he ends up getting up to it? It looks like he notices the ring from Marco and then turns around and leaves. So what did you take away? What was the significance of that?
I don't know about the significance of the ring. I mean, clearly that ring is a totem that represents this connection that he had to Marco. And I think if you're eagle-eyed enough and you go back and look at pictures or stills of Saul Goodman from Breaking Bad, he is wearing that pinky ring. So this is sort of a manifestation of his life, his former life with Marco, the way he used to be, the voices inside him that he shouted down, as we saw repeatedly throughout this first season. And I think that as we see what he says to Mike, which is, I know why I didn't take the money, and I'm not going to ever do it for that reason ever again. I think we see that maybe he's going to listen to some of those voices that he's been shouting down a little bit more, and that maybe as Saul Goodman, he's going to kind of take advantage of situations, and maybe as a lawyer be a little crooked. He's not going to be the kind of corporate guy that's going to go to a law firm and try to get on a partner track. He is going to be the kind of guy that has that totem that links him to a life that will make him a lot more crooked. So I think really that's what it's supposed to be, whether he realizes it or not through the ring. I definitely think that's what that ring is supposed to represent.
It's the Slippin' Jimmy Precious. It reminds him to be Slippin' Jimmy.
A little bit
at all times.
Yes, a little bit. Maybe he just needs to go and throw it into a volcano, and that's the only way he can get his way out of this. Perhaps, I don't know.
I majored in college in volcanoes.
I heard about that, Rob. I heard you volcanoes. I heard you majored in volcanoes.
Yes. So all right. So was season 1 all about leading up to Jimmy getting the ring, so that he was a honest lawyer all through season 1, and this was his journey to realize, hey, I should be a bad lawyer?
Yeah, whether the ring or not, I think season 1 was about him trying to do it Chuck's way, the way that Chuck wanted him to do. Be honest. Don't be the guy who Chicago sunroofs all over the place. And all over the place. I mean, just that's the sort of thing you don't want to do at all. But anywhere is a bad deal, except for maybe in a talking toilet. But yeah, it's try to do it Chuck's way. Try to do it straight and upright and honest. And the ironic thing about that is the reason that Chuck's upset with him is no matter how honest or straight or narrow Jimmy tried to be, Chuck always looked at him as Slippin' Jimmy, as a chimp with a machine gun, as the kind of guy who didn't respect the law and would take shortcuts. And so I think Jimmy, throughout the course of the season, having tried to do it Chuck's way and only to have Chuck push him away so vehemently, I think Jimmy said, I'm done with trying to do it your way. I'm done with trying to do it straight and narrow, and I'm going to do it my way, and my way is the Slippin' Jimmy way. My way is the way with the ring. I can do both. I can be a lawyer, but also be a little Slippin' Jimmy, and that's what I'm really going to focus on after I've kind of taken this all in and thought about it.
Yeah, it's almost as if that Jimmy really did feel like he owed his life to Chuck, and then through all of this, it's basically like when Chuck didn't want him to be in the partner, it's like Chuck rejected Jimmy. It was almost like Chuck said to Jimmy, I release you from that obligation. Not in so many words, and he was free to go back to being Slippin' Jimmy.
Yes, I agree. I think there was some importance, therefore, in the cold open. In the cold open, we saw, of course, tonight another flashback to kind of after the Chicago sunroof incident, where Chuck has gotten Jimmy kind of out of the situation. And Jimmy's gone back in the bar to talk to Marco. Jimmy's saying to Marco, like, I need to change. I want to change. This isn't just Chuck. This is something I want to do. And you know, Marco is really kind of pushing him, and he says it's like Miles Davis giving up the trumpet. And Jimmy says, I don't really understand that, but you know, this is Jimmy making an affirmative choice at the beginning of this episode to try to be different and to really want to change. And at the end of the day, I think through all the time he spent in Albuquerque, when he realized that pursuing that desire and really wanting to change got him nowhere with the person who was closest to his brother, there's no point in doing it. Why change if you try to change and people still think you are who you are at your core? So I do think that there was an important scene there in the cold open to show that Jimmy wanted to do it, but now at the end of the day, there's no real reason for doing it.
I want to talk about what I thought was the best scene of the night, and maybe the best scene of the series so far, was Jimmy at the bingo hall.
Yes, I agree with that. I mean, it's sort of like the most darkly comic kind of Bob Odenkirk doing stand-up almost kind of moment in the series, and yet it really was. It just got darker and darker and darker as it went along. How about all those bees, Rob? What were some of those bees?
Well, a couple of them was brother and sort of the common words, but the one I thought that was really of note was Belize.
Belize, that was a good one. He said battleship,
beautiful
bourbon,
place.
Belize. Yes, he said, well, none of us are ever going to go there. But do you remember Breaking Bad?
Hank.
Yeah, do you remember Breaking? It sounds like you do. Going to Belize was what Saul Goodman suggested as a way to get rid of Hank in Breaking Bad. Why don't you take him to Belize? Nice little metaphor there. So Jimmy's had Belize on the mind for a while, but yeah, I really did like the Belize callback. They closed a lot of loops in this episode, and it's almost like, even though I know this isn't true, it's almost like they didn't know they were getting a second season, because they paid off the Kevin Costner thing, they paid off a nice reference to the Belize thing, they closed the loop on the Chicago sunroof so that they introduced something a few episodes ago, and they told you what it was in that scene, so they were not leaving anything on the table here.
Yeah, and so he ends up going into that whole story about the Chicago sunroof. Was the Chicago sunroof, was that what we expected?
I can't remember. I don't know if anybody in the chat room remembers exactly what we speculated about the Chicago sunroof, but I feel like that was close to what was on Urban Dictionary or available on the internet at the time. So
see, I think we might have thought maybe the sunroof part of it may be a metaphor also.
And in this case, it was quite literal.
Literal sunroof, yes.
A literal sunroof. I don't understand why. So, I mean, I guess I just... In Chicago, maybe if your sunroof's open, you're just opening. You're risking
asking
that.
For it. You're
really asking for it. It's like a talking toilet almost.
Yes. Also, we found out tonight, and I don't believe we knew this before. Jimmy was married.
Yeah, he's mentioned before in the context of the canon of this show that he's had more than one ex-wife actually, but we found out now that one of them predates the Jimmy McGill and Albuquerque era. So that he actually probably was married while he was in Cicero at one point. So I don't know. What do you think the odds are that we're going to get any more Cicero flashbacks in this show? Oh,
I think that's it. I mean, I'm not sure why we would go back there, but you know, I'm not going to bet, you know, a John F. Kennedy $50 or anything like that.
Which way is he facing on that? Is he facing east or west?
Yeah.
I feel like the cold open structure on this show was sort of unique, especially when compared to Breaking Bad, where the cold opens were kind of all over the place. And this one, they all seem to be time shifted, except I think last episodes. One was, of course, in the future of the context of the show, and the rest of them were all various levels of flashback. And so if the show continues with that flashback structure where we learn a little bit more about Jimmy's past, as we're seeing kind of some element of those things playing out in the future, whether it's seeing Chuck come to Jimmy's rescue in prison, and then we're learning more about the Jimmy and Chuck relationship in Albuquerque. Maybe as Jimmy gets into a relationship with someone in Albuquerque in the main storyline, if that's going to happen, and maybe we're going to see flashbacks of his previous relationship in Cicero, and maybe more opportunities to see people like Marco. It just seems like it could happen.
Can I just go back to the bingo scene for one moment? My favorite part of that was just how, like, everybody was hanging on his every word just because he hadn't announced what the number was that he had.
Yes.
So it's like, and nobody cared about his story, but everybody's like, what's the number? What is it? What is it? But I'm surprised like security didn't come over and take the microphone away from him.
Yeah, because he was really going off the rails there. At one point, he calls Albuquerque a godforsaken wasteland. He starts talking about walking around in the desert and getting melanoma. He really just
The size of a pineapple.
Yes, exactly. He's really just bringing a damper. This is not the way bingo should go. And then he tosses that old guy the ball at one point, and I thought the guy was going to shout out what number it was. I thought that would have been pretty funny because that's what everyone was expecting. But I think by that point, everyone's breath was just gone.
Yeah, that's a significant advantage, Antonio, in bingo. You want to know what the numbers are and not have the other people know them. So that guy was a very smart bingo strategist.
Are you a big bingo player, Rob?
No, I'm not a big bingo player, but I think the rules are pretty straightforward.
But if you could bend the rules, if you could, somebody tosses.
If you could get a Bill Belichick-like advantage, what you would like to do is sort of like bring like a stereo and like put it behind you so other people around you can't hear the numbers as they're being called, or potentially see the board. If you could somehow like obfuscate those two things, then that would be a big advantage for you because you'd be getting the new numbers, and other people, they might have bingo, but it'd be too late.
That sounds like an Atlanta Falcons type advantage, pumping in noise. I like that.
Yeah, pumping the crowd noise.
I was thinking maybe like maybe an Apple Watch. I'm not shilling for Apple here, but you've got a smartphone at your table there, and you've got some kind of tiny little camera positioned right where the ball comes up, and you see it a half second before everybody else because you've got a video link established. I mean, this is the smartphone era. There's a lot in this show tonight where if there were smartphones, it wouldn't have happened. The whole Kennedy scam. There's a smartphone thing. This is not happening. So.
Jimmy makes the right move to go into lawyering and not Marco and Jimmy both got out of the Slippin' Jimmy game at the right time.
I agree completely.
The advent of the smartphone really kills the Slippin' Jimmy game.
It really does. Almost all aspects of it are kind of out the window. But yeah, bingo. I mean, I've played bingo. I love bingo. You get the little old ladies with their trolls or their good luck charms. I've played. Keno's not as fun. I like the bingo experience. The bingo halls can be pretty smoky here in my home state of Kentucky, though, Rob. I got to tell you, it's kind of a rough racket.
Yeah,
it's kind of a rough racket to hang out at the bingo hall too much. But I've spent many a night in the bingo hall. It's an honest way to spend your time.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a good time.
All right, let's talk about Marco.
All people love me, Rob.
I like Saul. All right, let's talk about Marco and his passing. When Marco coughs, is that Chekhov's cough for you? Do you know Marco's not making it out of the episode?
I thought so. Didn't you?
Yeah, I think, and not the first time he coughed, but in the alley, once he coughs before Jimmy comes, like, oh, he's gonna be dead by the time Jimmy gets there.
Yeah, when he's coughing and only the audience is seeing it, I feel like that's a major deal. And it's like, oh, we're supposed to know that he's continuing to cough, and that one's not happening in Jimmy's presence. And there's only like 20 minutes left in this episode, so that cough is going to mean something. And sure enough, it did.
Yeah, it definitely did.
Is that a symptom of a heart attack, a cough?
You know what? That I don't know.
Because I need something else to freak out about at night. So if I get a coughing fit, I'm going to be really worried next time.
It's a good question.
Yeah, I really need to have more anxiety before I go to bed. So that would.
Hamlin makes an appearance in this episode, and it seemed like Hamlin had like a face turn, Antonio.
He really did, didn't he? I mean, and it was a full-on face turn. It went from Lord Vader to I don't know, Anakin Skywalker. Like exactly, I don't know. Like it was a real big turn there. And are you on board with Howard the Face?
I don't know if I'm buying it.
You're not buying it. Oh, so I mean, you think that he's kind of just he's two-faced.
I think potentially. I mean, he seems like he was sort of a slimy guy all through the season. Just because, I always liked you, Jimmy. I don't know if I can buy that yet.
Yeah, I think that's true. He did call him Charlie Hustle, reference to my Cincinnati Reds, Pete Rose, one of my childhood heroes. Yes, I'm banging the drum for that one. I'm hoping that'll work out. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like Howard did. I mean, I kind of feel like Howard, as we talked about last episode, there's no question that Howard has been carrying water for Chuck. for the entirety of that kind of negative relationship. The question is, how much did Howard enjoy doing it? And I do think that there's some aspect of Howard that did enjoy doing it. His go-to response to Kim in that office when she's pushing him about Jimmy is to be really, really rude and curt to her. Not Kurt Clark, by the way.
Right.
And yet he does have this kind of moment where he's like, please, come back. I got to explain this to you. And he asks her to shut the door. So maybe he's not that bad of a guy under the surface. He just looks like one.
He does. He's got sort of the bad guy look. And we also had Kim in this episode, who we saw a couple times, and she is saying that she didn't have much to do with this other job coming up. Do you buy that it was just Jimmy's reputation with the senior citizens that got him this position?
No, I mean, I think that there was some combination of that. She said Howard was really pushing for it, too. I have no reason to believe that wasn't the case. I think there might have been some guilt on Kim's part. Because Jimmy has definitely stuck his neck out for her and kept her in good graces at HHM, as we remember with the Kettlemans. So it is very possible that she felt the need to kind of repay that favor and to stick her neck out. But I believe her when she says that the senior citizens are really all about the Jimmy McGill. I have no doubt that that's true. Although, I gotta say, the bingo incident, I'm not sure that played too well with those seniors.
Yeah.
But that was only one place. I don't think that was at Sandpiper because I don't think they'd let him back in to call the bingo game in the middle of that lawsuit, injunction or no. I think they can stop him from calling the bingo game at the very least. So that may have been at another nursing home. But still and still all, I think that it's definitely believable that the old people were talking about Jimmy. I mean, look, Jimmy McGill is, and I think that Howard maybe accurately articulates this, he has a lot of strengths as a lawyer that could be really valuable. He does work really hard. He is really thoughtful. He's creative. He's a lot of things that Chuck probably envies, and that may be why Chuck is a little jealous of him.
Okay, let's go through a couple other quick things from the episode, and then I want to speculate a little bit on Season 2.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. What were some of your other favorite moments from tonight, Antonio?
Well, I really did like the Ocean's 11 style montage of all the
it was very fun
that they were running. I thought that was really funny. And then right after that, of course, the callback to Breaking Bad Season 3 when Saul tells Walt, like, I once convinced a woman that I was Kevin Costner because I believed it. You know, you can do anything if you believe in it. We got this to see the Kevin Costner storyline. I really like that. I thought that was a nice comic beat there, especially with the manager moment where the other waitress was like, "Who's this guy?" Well, he's not Kevin Costner's manager. And she said, "Are you sure he's not some kind of manager?" And she was kind of waving on the way out. So she had more of a fun time with it than the lady that Jimmy put on. I really liked that.
Are you leaving out if you build it?
Yeah, I am leaving that out. You enjoyed that?
I did.
I thought that was I just thought that was pretty good. I mean, it was a sad kind of existence, but there was a lot of life in that, and I think that Marco kind of articulated that. Standpipes are not enough for him. Did you know what a standpipe was, Rob?
No, I didn't. Is there any connection, or was it just a total coincidence that the case was Sandpiper, what Jimmy was working on, and the thing that Marco was involved in was Standpipe? That can't be a coincidence, right?
Maybe not. Maybe there was like a typo in the script, and they just went with it.
Especially considering that, Marco, one of the final things he says to Jimmy is, standpipes just aren't doing it for me. And this is an episode where Saul could have spent, years working on this Sandpiper case and, representing the old people, and he walks away from that. Right? There has to be something there.
I mean, I think that it's there at least in a subtle way, like you're pointing out, which I think is a really great observation, and I think that that's a valid connection. It's standpipes aren't doing it for Marco. Sandpiper wouldn't do it for Jimmy, and Jimmy needs a little bit more skin in the game. He needs a little bit more action, and working with this other firm might be a way for Jimmy to stick it to Chuck. But that's not really what he's about. I think he's going to be about like being himself, which means yeah, I can be creative, I can be clever, I can be articulate, I can be charming, I can be all the things that I would have been successful in elder law doing. But I can also not really have many scruples. And that can really make me Saul Goodman. And so I think that that's kind of the pinky ring connection. It's like Sandpiper wouldn't do it for me. Like I need to focus on being me, and being me means wearing this pinky ring around and having a little bit of Marco with me at all times.
All right, so let's pick this up a year from now, next February. Better Call Saul Season 2, Antonio. What are we following there?
I think we're just seeing kind of a repilot, ultimately. Like, I do think that we're seeing what a lot of shows do, which is you have a show or season that's almost self-contained, where a lot of the storylines are kind of wrapped up, and you begin anew, knowing a little bit more about your characters, and certainly trading on a lot of that backstory, but not with any cliffhanger from the previous season, like Lost Season 1, and not with any sort of real stakes progress, like at the end of Breaking Bad Season 3. I think that you end with knowing that Jimmy McGill is that much closer to really being Saul Goodman, and that whatever turn of the screw is needed to get him from Jimmy McGill to Saul Goodman has probably turned. And I think we'll now see how that plays out in his practice. And the same goes for Mike. I think now Mike is taking the sort of protection or muscle gigs on the regular, and I think we're going to see exactly how that plays out. We already have people like Nacho in the story, and I do think they're going to become bigger parts of the story. So the pieces are in place, and I think we're just going to see them begin to come together.
Are you surprised there's not really a cliffhanger between Season 1 and Season 2?
I am a little surprised.
Breaking Bad always had cliffhangers.
Yes, and I also think that this is a show that, is going to pick up legs as between the seasons, like I think most shows do nowadays, that are well liked and that are watched. And this one's going to go up online somewhere, probably Netflix, before Season 2 airs. And I got to think that you want something at the end of the season to really drive viewership to the premiere of the next season. And if the next season's going to be a repilot, yeah, the people who liked and enjoyed the show are going to watch it again, but there isn't going to be this real feeling of need to watch the show immediately when it comes out, which is, of course, what they want. And it's what we want here on Post Show Recap. So I don't know. I'm a little surprised. Weren't you a little bit surprised?
I was, again, I thought this was a great episode, but as the finale, I do feel like I was a little bit left wanting more. Like, I really... this would have been a fine regular episode of Better Call Saul during the season. Would have been a great episode, and it still is a great episode. But I think I might have had some unfair expectations going into the finale.
Yeah, and I think some of that is probably based on Breaking Bad. I think I had some of the same expectations. If you look back or listen back to some of the stuff we've talked about throughout the season, I think we thought something big could happen. Chuck could get committed. We could see Chuck in the hospital.
Hey, Marco died.
Yeah, Marco did die. A character we had seen for 3 minutes on the show before did die. So that was, I guess, something big. Marco did happen, died. So, I mean, that is all true. But you're not having your Season 4 ending of Breaking Bad moment. You're not having the Breaking Bad Season 5A ending moment. Like, there aren't these things that I think we're used to from Vince Gilligan. So, like I said, it's weird because I know they knew that they were getting a second season, but it is really like they wrote a self-contained season of this prequel in which we saw kind of a beginning, a middle, and an end to the Jimmy McGill story in Albuquerque, and the end is he's ready to not be the guy who's trying to be good anymore, and it took a full season to get there, and now in Season 2 we're really going to see how that plays out. And I don't think anybody really necessarily expected that when they started the show, because of what we knew about Saul Goodman. We knew he was a dirty guy, kind of a scummy, like a criminal lawyer. And to see him not be that is good, but it was a full self-contained season to get him there. So I agree with you. I thought it was a good episode, but not the finale I was expecting. But we'll see where they kick off Season 2. I guess the Polo episode, the beginning of Season 2, the answer to Marco will be very interesting to watch.
Got to have Mike on the screen for more than 1 minute.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt, and he can't be doing a crossword when he does show up. Like, this is especially where we've seen from Mike throughout this, and how it's kind of built, and the great scene we had last episode in both in the parking garage and with Price in the kind of vacant industrial yard there and the drug deal. You can't just have Mike basically saying, I only did the job I did because that was what I was hired to do. That's why I didn't take the money. It doesn't go beyond there. That's great. Like, it's great that we have that, but you got to have more than that. I don't care if Mike shows up in Chicago to pull Jimmy McGill back by the scruff of his neck. I want more Mike on the screen.
Yeah, got to get more Mike in there. Hopefully season 2 is going to be where really Jimmy and Mike start working together. I felt like season 1, the journey was, and again, this is what I was hoping for. It doesn't mean that it was what it had to be, but you would think that you would get Jimmy and Mike really crossing paths more than just at the toll booth.
Yeah, I completely agree. And
the one scene with spilling the coffee and a couple other things here and there, but all in all, they really don't have a working relationship right now.
No, but I think it is important that Jimmy knows that Mike is the kind of guy that will work for money, that he'll do the job that he's hired to do, and that he can be trusted in that regard, that he has a code, that he has some ethics, that he is also the kind of guy that will get his hands dirty, and he'll rob $1.6 million, or he'll kind of do, and I guess we'll find out, and that's what Jimmy kind of in season 2 will be doing, is testing the limits of what Mike will and won't do, and what Jimmy wants him to do. So it's a valuable guy to know at this point for Jimmy, but yeah, I would have expected more between the two of them. I don't know. Did you like Jimmy's relationship with Marco? Is that something you do? I don't see Jimmy being that fraternal with Mike. I see Mike being more of an employee-boss relationship with Jimmy.
Yeah, it was such a bromance between Jimmy and Marco.
It really was, and I don't see that happening between Jimmy and Mike. I think it will be more employer-employee, which is fine. But I think that would be hard to kind of put those two guys in any different kind of role.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and take some questions here from the listeners of Better Call Saul Live. And here we go. Let's start off with Jessica. Jessica Batros says, "Aw, it seemed like the season flew by. I am so going to miss Jimmy. Can't wait for Saul to emerge. Such a great episode. Can't wait for your thoughts, Robin and Antonio. You guys rock." Oh, some kneecap sucking to get us started, Antonio.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jessica. You rock as well. Yeah, we love it. We're always down for the KSing, so we're good for that. But yeah, I mean, I think that that's exactly what we're kind of hitting on. That really is. Season flew by, and it flew by because there doesn't seem to be much outstanding. Like there's nothing we're really expecting that we didn't per se get. So here we are.
Okay. Let's go to our next question, and this is from Buddha Ben. What does Buddha Ben have to say?
Buddha Ben says, "What type of role do you think Tuco will play in season 2? At the beginning of Breaking Bad, he's in jail with Skinny Pete."
Oh. I really hadn't been thinking about what role Tuco is playing in season 2. Do you feel like he's in line for a bigger storyline?
I think we're going to get into that world via Nacho, and I'm fine with that. I really liked the Nacho that we got this season. I like that Tuco is great, incredibly memorable character from Breaking Bad. Those of you who have seen Breaking Bad, when he popped up on the screen, you probably cheered and gasped a little bit like we all did. But he's sort of one note and one dimensional, and that's fine because that one note is amazing and hilarious. But Nacho seems to be a lot more multi-layered. He seems to be kind of quiet, and he's kind of practiced and reasoned. He sort of bowed a little bit to Tuco and kind of really praised him and got a little bit out of him, but he was also able to talk him down and control him in ways that we haven't seen other people be able to do. So I think Nacho is a much more deep and interesting character, and I think we're going to see more from Nacho into that world. That doesn't mean Tuco won't pop up from time to time. It's, again, that thing where we know Tuco is not going to be dead or in any kind of situation by the time Breaking Bad starts, but because we do know he's going to have some legal troubles at some point, maybe it's possible that we're going to see more of him. And again, we can't forget, Tuco has some pretty important family members.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, so we'd love to see those guys again. I
All
think.
right, Johnny DeSilvera says, I didn't realize Chuck was a hashtag lawyer diva. Do you have demands for your services, Antonio?
I have very little demands. I do expect there to be freshly squeezed chilled orange juice, I should say. When I walk into work in the morning, I expect a foot massage at 3 in the afternoon. If it doesn't happen right at 3 in the afternoon, I get very upset, and that can cause a problem. I'm not a diva, though. I mean, these are pretty normal demands, aren't they?
I think so, especially if on The Celebrity Apprentice.
Yeah, well, that I'm not aware of. Is there a foot massage thing or an orange juice thing?
They do some foot massages, but it's not classy.
Well, you have to keep it classy. You have to keep it classy. If you're not keeping it classy with the FMs, then forget it. I'm ready to move on to the next question, Rob. It's getting a little awkward talking about my personal life. Are you ready?
Yes.
This one's from Katie D, a.k.a. Muffin That Sucks on Twitter. Katie asks, is the fever living the con life, not the straight life? If so, I wish we'd gotten a peek at Jimmy to Saul transition. So I guess is it better to live the con life and not the straight life? Is that what we really want? Is that what we really want to see?
I think that there's certainly easier to sleep at night living the straight life. I think that's probably one of the added benefits. It goes back to the light side of the Force, dark side of the Force.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, I think there's two sides to that in every person, right? Like I think everybody has some lighter moments and some darker moments, and we have those voices, the classic cartoon angel and devil or whatever we choose to pay attention to. And I think that Jimmy McGill or Saul Goodman, I think as we saw throughout this season, he's an interesting character when he's shouting down the angry voice or the dark voice. But he's also a really interesting and fun character when he's listening to that voice. And so I don't know exactly which the better voice is for Jimmy McGill. We just saw a full season of him trying to listen to his his demons being shouted down by his better angels, but I should look for me in that kind of manic car drive at the end of the episode that he's ready to start listening to those demons a little bit more.
And where does he go? What does he do?
Yeah, I mean, there's smoke on the water and fire in the sky, Rob. You go wherever you can.
Well, what's the significance of Smoke on the Water? It was sung and hummed a number of different times tonight.
Well, I mean, I don't know if there's a huge significance to it. It's definitely one of the most memorable kind of guitar riffs at all time. It's so memorable that I think people have ripped it off. I mean, it's a Deep Purple song. Ted Nugent made his career on making songs that sounded like it. So good on Ted Nugent, I guess. But I don't know. I don't know exactly what the history of it is or what the connection is. But it's something that I think we could really think about throughout the course of the off season here, because it's clearly a very affirmative choice, right? Like there's a reason they picked this particular song.
Yeah, I think that's something that we will look into. Deep Purple, is it color theory? Is Marie in the mix?
It's finally back. We got Deep Purple, and it is Marie. No, I don't know exactly what. Yeah, I could be a little color theory. There was also one of my favorites songs by a folk singer from England, or I think he's from Ireland, called his name's Donovan, covering one of his songs called "Season of the Witch." That was the song that was playing when Jimmy kind of first walked into the bar there in Chicago. I think it was like, hey, do you want to know where Jimmy is? We're going to play some like real heavy blues music, and then we're going to show you an Illinois license plate. If you haven't figured it out by then, we're really sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love "Season of the Witch" popping up on Better Call Saul. I was very happy to hear that.
Okay, let's take another question from Brendan Rydell. The $50 design before the Kennedy $50 was Benjamin Franklin, not Lincoln, like Saul said. All right, so Jimmy did not have his facts straight.
Yeah, shocker. A con was not entirely accurate or honest.
Yes.
Buzz him up.
Sorry, Jimmy.
I'm reading a little bit about Smoke on the Water here, Rob. It sounds like it was inspired by the band in Deep Purple in Switzerland seeing a burning casino.
Oh.
And like there was smoke kind of from a burning fire at a casino complex. So I don't know if this is a reference to like some kind of vice leading to fire, leading to hell. I don't know if that's what we're getting with that, but maybe that's a more direct thing there.
Okay. Antonio, what does Kevyn Cruz have to say?
Kevyn Cruz says, was that Gil running by during the funeral? That was weird. That was a really weird extra running by there in that moment, running by at the funeral. Did you make any connection there at all with that?
No, I'd have to go back and take a look again.
Yeah, me too. I did not see anything that was in that particular scene that would make me think that was linked to anything else. But do you think, who is Gil? Do you think we meant Gail? Gail.
Might have been, Gail would make more sense. I'm not sure about Gil.
Yeah, Gil from The Simpsons, like not to Gil, not today.
Yeah,
no.
I don't know.
All right, well.
McKenna says, I feel that Jimmy actually loves Kim, and Kim will not be with him as Saul. So is he losing Kim? No, sorry. This is just a disappointment.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. I mean, I don't know. I don't know where they're going to go. We talked about how Jimmy and Kim could actually be one of Jimmy's other ex-wives. I mean, time could pass here, and we could get a whole lot that happens between seasons, or we could just kind of pick up a couple of months later in the middle of things, and we could actually see more Jimmy and Kim. And I think that all has to do with how much story do they really want to tell. Breaking Bad, of course, really picked up by the end of its run rating-wise, and I think that if at all possible, they probably would have wanted to extend the run. I mean, they split the final season into 2 seasons as it was, but Vince Gilligan was pretty sure that the story he wanted to tell was only going to be told in the time that he told it. So I don't know what their plan is with Better Call Saul. If they really want to stretch things out, we might see things between Jimmy and Kim develop differently. But as it stands right now, I feel like we're all pretty used to their rhythms at this point.
Whoa.
And now I'm not talking about any particular method there, but we could see it go in a different direction for sure.
Okay, let's take a few more questions. Charlie Edwards is letting Jimmy get a free pass at the toll booth. In letting Jimmy get a free pass at the toll booth, is Mike Breaking Bad? Seems his philosophy about seeing the job through is sort of falling apart.
Yeah, I mean it's really kind of crazy because I don't know about Breaking Bad, but no stickers there. He didn't protest at all, and he was such a hard ass about that all season long. So maybe at the very least, this is I know you now. I'm not going to give you a hard time anymore. I don't need to see your stickers. You were only here such a short time. Like, I don't know about Breaking Bad, but I think
Mike letting the power go to his head, Antonio?
Maybe a little bit. Like, maybe he's being a little toll, like a toll booth tyrant, and he's letting it happen. I don't know.
Toll troll. Okay.
Toll troll. You got to pay the troll toll.
All right. Robert Jurgensen, Antonio.
Robert Jurgensen wants to know, Rob, I'm going to ask you, what were the best parts of season 1 when we were in Breaking Bad territory?
I don't know. Real quick off the top of your head, what were the best parts of season 1 of Better Call Saul?
Well, I mean, definitely, I think the Mike stuff, like seeing the Mike episode 5-0 and seeing how that all played out, seeing Mike in executing kind of his first criminal contracts in New Mexico. I think those were great. I think some of the Jimmy stuff was really funny. I mean, his first big speech that he gives in the courtroom about, hey, nobody got hurt. We all remember when we were kids and we made mistakes. And then that prosecutor just brings the TV over, wordlessly hits play, and we see what it is. Like, there's some really good stuff there with Jimmy kind of being an attorney that I think was really funny. But I don't know. So that's not in Breaking Bad territory. And the stuff with Nacho and Tuco in the desert is more in Breaking Bad territory, and that was excellent. So I don't know. I feel like it's right in the middle there, Rob. Were there things that were in this show that weren't in Breaking Bad territory that you really, really liked?
Boy, I really liked the speech tonight from Jimmy. I thought that was really good. I mean, there were just a couple of really great performance things I thought along the way. I'm trying to think of some of the other really great things. You know, Jimmy was great the whole time. You know, Bob Odenkirk was so good, but I'm trying to think of specific moments where he was especially rose to another level.
Well, I mean, him telling off Howard and I rewatched it before.
Yeah, that was
movie.
good. That was very good.
him telling Chuck that he knew it was Chuck all along, a very kind of Godfather 2 kind of moment. That was very good. And Bob Odenkirk played that really well. None of that's really in Breaking Bad territory, especially because it's a very emotional Jimmy McGill that we get. I really did like the stuff with Gene, too. I thought that was captivating, stuff at the very beginning of the season. And I don't know, is that Breaking Bad territory? That's beyond Breaking Bad territory.
No, but I think that's technically Breaking Bad stuff.
Yeah.
The stuff that was earned from Breaking Bad, not the stuff that was earned by Better Call Saul.
Yeah, and I think that there were a lot of really solid sequences and moments, montages of different clients, things that Jimmy was dealing with, just a lot of really funny stuff that we got throughout the season. And not to say that Breaking Bad wasn't funny, but of course Saul Goodman is one of the funniest things about Breaking Bad, so it wouldn't be appropriate to have Better Call Saul and not have a lot of really funny things. So the talking toilet and the guy who was making his own money and wanted to pay Jimmy to help him succeed, and that whole kind of montage in the Alpine Shepherd Boy, I think that was that episode, was really, really funny. So I just love all that. I mean, I think that this is a show that really does a lot of different things really well. And, of course, the Breaking Bad type things it does are incredible. But there are other things about the show that I really, really loved.
All right, let's do 2 more questions. This is from Goat Girl. Have you considered it's the classic you can take Jimmy out of the con game, but you can't take the con man out of Jimmy?
Yeah, and I think that's the ring, right? That's Marco telling Jimmy, like, oh, you're a lawyer? Like, Slippin' Jimmy's a lawyer? You got to be the king of the desert. You got to be driving around. Say what?
You're making bank.
You're making bank. You got to be driving around in a white caddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's the white Cadillac, of course. Like, you can't take that out of Jimmy McGill. Like, that, Marco is in many ways more his brother than Chuck was or is. And he speaks to a part of Jimmy that is very important to Jimmy. And so you can't take that out of him. That's exactly right. And I think a lot of this season, Go Girl, was about seeing him try to take that out of himself. And at the end of the day, he can't really deny who he is at his core. And then so this one, Rob, this next question is from Ian at Fernsey on Twitter. Ian says, the significance of Jimmy having the offer and then seeing the pinky ring is that we see Jimmy had a choice. He chose the path he took. I think that's probably pretty accurate, right? Like, he is driving down the road in the lane that he wants to be in and picking his own path.
Interesting.
So I have 2 more questions that are kind of related here. Chris Berger asked in the chat room if the perceived loss of Michelle MacLaren would hurt the show. Michelle MacLaren, of course, one of the top directors, I think, that kind of has worked on both Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, and she's not dead or anything. She's just going to be making – she's a hot property. She's going to be making a lot of film kind of commitments that are probably going to keep her away from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. But I got to believe if she's available at all, they're going to find a way to make it work with her. I don't think it'll hurt the show. The show is well directed no matter who's directing it. They have a way of finding other directors. I mean, did we talk a ton about Michelle MacLaren before Breaking Bad? They find people who are really, really good at what they do. So I'm not as concerned about that. And Rob, this one's to you from Brad Ass TV. And Brad would like to know, let's put it on the table, Season 2, going forward, do you think we're going to see any more post-Breaking Bad scenes of Saul like in the pilot?
I think we will, but I think that maybe not until the final season.
Okay, so definitely not like at the beginning of next season. We're not going to jump off.
I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised if we do go forward at the. And maybe that's the start of every season we go forward. Maybe that's the thing, but I'd be surprised.
I would be surprised too. And again, we still don't know. I mean, Chuck is this major kind of loose end now. Like, he's got another person working for him. It's somebody who Jimmy knows. He is kind of nervous that he wants to reconnect with Jimmy, but he won't even open the door. Chuck's still hanging around out there. Yeah. Sandpiper's still hanging around out there. So
Ernesto from the mailroom.
Ernesto from the mailroom is ready to kind of. He's the guy who was ripping on Hamlin when Hamlin walked in the door. So Ernesto, not Gustavo. Ernesto, like, not another well-dressed man with glasses. This is Ernesto. This is a different guy. So, yeah, there's a lot of loose ends there that I don't think we could just go into full-on Gene territory. But maybe we'll pick it up at the beginning of this season or not.
Do you think? Well, now that we talk about Ernesto, you don't think that Ernesto could be like the son of Gus Fring, do you?
I don't think so, but I don't think it's a coincidence that he's dressed in the kind of manner that Gus would dress, that he's bespectacled, he's got the short hair, he's slight of build. I mean, there's definitely, and his name's
Spanish
Ernesto.
name.
Yes, I mean, I think that there's definitely meant to be a somewhat of a little connection there. But I don't know exactly what that is, but it's an interesting one. I think it's one that over the course of the summer people are going to really talk a little bit more about and speculate on. And I don't know if it was there for any other reason other than being a little bit of an Easter egg or something for people to talk about. But that would be pretty mind blowing, to be perfectly honest with you, because we don't know. I think, didn't Gus talk about how he had a wife and family?
Oh, I have to go back. I don't remember what Gus talked about his family.
He invites Walter over for dinner, and I think he talks about how he makes this food a certain way, and his family doesn't like when he does it the way he wants to do it, but he's going to do it a certain way that he wants to do it, and it's a very specific food preparation that he talks about. I think in that scene he mentions he does have a family, but we know from Gustavo Fring in Breaking Bad that he had a very emotional connection to his pollo hermano, his chicken brother, and that there was some kind of, whether it was mentor-mentee relationship or it was something deeper than that between the two of them. So maybe he does have a son. That would be kind of crazy. And I don't know. This show could probably find a way to do it, but I'd be skeptical.
Interesting. All right, let's. I think that's it for season 1, Antonio.
I mean, I think we've wrapped it. This is crazy. I mean, it doesn't seem like it was 10 weeks ago, Rob.
Well, time flies when you're having fun, Antonio.
I know. Time flies when you're listening to Deep Purple, Rob.
Yes. Okay. Antonio, we have so much coming up. Of course, you mentioned your Justified season finale, series finale on the horizon.
Yeah, this week will be the penultimate episode, and then next week will be the series finale. I might actually shed a tear on that one, Rob.
Oh my God. Okay, so that's coming up. Of course, Josh Wigler and I are doing our daily Road to Westeros podcast. We are doing one Game of Thrones quest a day, taking us all the way through to the premiere of season 5 of Game of Thrones. But Antonio, we haven't announced this on the Road to Westeros podcast yet, but because of my travel schedule going to New Media Expo, I'm going to need a fill-in for this Sunday night for the premiere of Game of Thrones.
I'm your guy, Rob. I'm your guy. I'll do it.
So
are you asking me?
Check out Antonio. No, well, I'm not asking you because I know you're already doing it. But check out Antonio on the Game of Thrones Season 5 premiere this Sunday night. Very exciting.
I'm excited to do it. That's the show everybody's talking about. Everybody's talking about the King's Road to Westeros.
Oh, everybody's talking about that? That's great.
It's a talk of the town, Rob.
Talk of the town.
Talk of the town. So I'm excited. I'm excited to be involved with that. You guys are having a lot of fun on those Road to Westeros podcasts, and I'm looking forward.
Antonio, do you have a season 1 finale hashtag?
Whew, do you have any suggestions? I don't know. Chicago Sunroof is not one I want to tread into.
Yes. Let's see. Is there anything with our do we want to plant a flag on the Ernesto is Gustavo Fring's son?
Ernesto Fring.
Ernesto Fring. Let's plant our flag there.
All right, we'll do it. Hashtag
and maybe we'll look really smart or really dumb one day.
I think that most days I look both of those things.
Yes. Okay. Well, we'll take it. We can get Antonio. Thank you so much. Great job here in season 1 of Better Call Saul.
Rob, thank you so much. I had a great.
Yes. Your legal expertise proved most valuable, and it was a pleasure to talk with you these Monday nights.
The pleasure was all mine, and I definitely want to thank everybody for participating, tweeting at us, sharing hashtags, being in the chat room. Just had a great time. Wouldn't have been the same without everybody listening and playing along and watching along with us.
Okay. All right. And looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say in the comments. That's going to do it for Better Call Saul Season 1. We will see you next spring for Better Call Saul Season 2. Take care, everybody. Have a great night.